Hi,
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm very happy that it's almost Friday.
Yes, yeah, me too. Me too. I feel that.
I love your hair. Oh my
Oh,
God.
thank you.
I wish I was brave enough to do my whole head. I started doing purple underneath.
Oh, fun.
A little surprise. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, no, I can see a little bit. That's awesome.
I'm not brave to do the whole head.
Yeah. No, I kind of just, it was very random that I went for it. I had dyed my hair like from literally elementary school into high school and then stopped at college. And
Hmm.
then kind of like after COVID and then, like with everything, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do it. And I haven't gone back. So
Oh, I love it.
yeah, thanks.
I love it. When my kids come in with all their different color hairs, I'm like, I'm so jealous. I'm like, I want
Yeah.
that hair. I want it.
No, it's fun.
So, thank you so much for doing this for us today.
Of
Excuse my
course.
cat is all of a sudden being very clingy. Um, I'm excited about this. I don't have kiln stuff at school to use. I don't even know how to use it, so I can't even like follow along because I can't fire the clay. But
Yeah,
I'm fascinated by the process, and someday I would really like to just take classes just for myself.
that's awesome. Yeah, I'm actually opening a studio in my backyard. I have a
Oh,
little space that we've
nice.
been converting. So I have my own kiln here. So like ceramics is what I do.
And
So
where are you? Where are you
Middle
located?
Island.
Where, Middle Island?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Is that like far out Suffolk?
It's further out there. It's towards the East End. Where are you?
I'm in Queens, like the
Okay.
border of Nassau, Queens,
Yeah.
like
Yeah. So
south.
Middle Island is like Selden Center Reach. I'm trying to think of like what's close, like Port Jeff
Mm-hmm.
is
Yeah,
just north of me.
that's like 2 hours from me. Wow.
Yeah, no, it's a trip. I actually worked in Queens, my first few years teaching
While you lived out,
while
uh,
I lived out here. Yeah.
holy cow, it
Yeah, I
must
was in
have
Far
taken you
Rockaway.
forever. That's where I am. I'm in the Rockaways.
Oh, okay. Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Did you teach at the high school level or?
No, when I was in Far Rockaway, I was at elementary. I was at a charter school.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. That was
Probably
like my
passive.
foot in the door place to be.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it down here.
Yeah. Yeah. It's awesome over there. It's a good spot. Yeah, then I actually got my job from there in the district that I went to. So that was a nice change for me. I was into that.
Very nice. Very
Yeah.
nice. So when I was checking the registration yesterday, we had like over 50 people, which is really, really nice.
Oh, great.
Um, but what I tell everybody is that once the day actually happens, everybody has the best intentions, and then school and life, and
Right.
then 7 o'clock, and some people are like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna sleep on the couch."
Yeah.
Um, but we'll see. We'll see. I mean, our attendance has increased also ever since I started doing the CTLE.
Oh, that's great.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
So
sure that makes a big difference.
it totally does. Totally
Yeah.
does. Um, oh, let me see. Some people are coming in. I made you co-host, by the way. So
Perfect.
when we get started, you don't have to worry about letting people in. I usually don't let anybody come in
Awesome.
until like after 7. But
Okay.
since we're here, hi.
Oh, no worries.
Hi, Sue.
Hi.
Hi, Mom. Roberta Estrin is my mother. She's one of our regulars, and she loves to just come in and
Nice.
watch and hang out. So
That's great.
her sound is off and her face is off. So I don't know
Right.
what's happening.
Awesome. All right. So I do not know Zoom very well to
Okay.
share.
Okay.
So, oh, I can just share this way. Oh,
If
that's so
you
easy.
if you
Really
roll
nice.
your mouse over your screen, all the buttons should pop up, and it's a big green button that says share screen.
Great. Yep.
Sam, you really are
Yes.
being a pain today.
Maybe I'll just do this. Oh.
His butt is literally right in my face right now. This is great for social media. Good going, Sammy. Cha 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 chia.
Yeah.
Okay, so cute.
Yeah, I feel like being on a Zoom call in my art room like is
Uh-huh.
like right back to COVID for me. So
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I love though that this is most people like to have their face on, which
Yeah.
is really
It's nice.
nice. COVID was horrible for me because I was all alone in a black box surrounded by black boxes, which
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough.
but this is much nicer.
Yeah.
So, okay, so this was so cute. Took me back to my childhood. Um, remember when it was the original, the one, and then I don't know. I think the second one was Bob Ross, like the second variation of the idea of it with the
Was
hair.
it?
I don't know, but I think it could have been.
I know the first few were animals because actually I have a commercial that I have part of my presentation.
Uh-huh.
That's like now adding new animals. It had like 4 animals like in the 90s.
They're
And
so
then
cute.
yeah, I don't know how when the Bob Ross came out. I do have one of the originals that I found at a thrift store that I always show the kids too.
Really?
So you can see it like from the box.
Oh, it was totally new in the box
Yep.
or never used. Oh wow.
Yeah. Brand new.
Now, are these like chia seeds that you could buy and put in your food? It's the same exact
Same
thing?
thing.
Huh.
Yep. I got mine from the grocery store.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. And I wonder if there's any way to, well, I guess not. Polymer has no, it doesn't absorb anything. So you can't do polymer clay ones. You said air
Right. Yeah. It
dry
has to be
clay is no good.
porous.
It would probably completely fall apart.
Right.
I wonder if there's any other method that you could do this with that won't like either make it moldy or disintegrate or
Right. Yeah, because it has to like hold moisture and be porous. So you can even do anything that's fired to a glaze fire.
hmm, I guess not. Or we could just be lazy and go buy one.
Yeah.
Steffi, can you see me?
Now I can. Hello.
Hello.
Oh, you're like huh,
There I am.
you keep freezing halfway through, but you're there.
Um, there are 8 people on my screen.
Do you see a presentation up on your screen? Because Carissa's screen sharing her presentation right now.
I did. I um I have to keep flipping back and forth apparently.
Well, you only need to see the presentation unless you're
Right.
you're into staring at people while they're watching a presentation.
No, no. I'm trying to get back to it. Ugh. I hate doing it on the phone. That's the problem. It's very annoying on the phone.
All right, I don't know why you didn't use your computer in your room.
Oh, that's right. I have sound. All right, next time.
Okay. And a video. Well, whatever. All right, this is not the mom tech time, so I love you, but gotta get to work.
I no, I know. I'm
Okay.
trying to find the right screen.
I'm going to spotlight you,
Oh, hi.
Carissa, for everybody,
Alrighty.
even
Okay.
though so that you're like at the top of everybody's list and when they come in. Um,
Thought it'd be fun for my kids to make chias.
check my time. Where did my
This is on.
phone go? There's my
Either
phone.
one.
That's on it.
Which this isn't on at
I'm
all.
gonna try to mute everybody who's coming in
There you go. Thank
so
you.
that we don't have background noise. I should have said that before we came in. Okay, so for those of you who've never met Sam, this is Sam. He's really literally in my face right now, and I apologize. Okay, time is 7:03. I would usually wait another like 3 minutes.
Okay.
Some people straggle in a little later. Do you have everything good to go? Your tech is all
Yeah.
set up and
Looks like it's all working through.
all right.
I have some videos too,
Mhm.
just 'cause I think it'll be easier for you guys to see on the videos, but I also have my clay with me, so if you have any questions, I'll be going through it along with my videos too.
Perfect. Now, are you actually going to be, we mentioned this in the email this morning, sculpting after the presentation, like showing everybody how to do it, or?
Yeah, so I have some demo clay with me and then the videos too, and I have some examples also.
Okay. Maybe I have a quick question.
Sure.
I don't know if it was on a previous recording or the workshop, but somehow it came up that there are now kilns that you can purchase to put in your microwave.
I have seen those. I don't know much about them. Any of them
Uh-huh.
that I've seen on social media and things, it did look like people were using them outside.
Right.
So I don't know if that's like a safety concern with them. I've never used one, but yeah, it's an interesting thing. If those work well, that'd be very interesting. I wonder like to what range you can get it to fire.
I
I
have
have
no
one.
idea. A lot of them were mentioning when I did a little bit of
Are you
research,
supposed to do it? No.
it was
That's-
mentioned that you could use it for glass, for clay. Obviously, you need a dedicated microwave. You don't want to
Hmm.
use the one that you put food in.
Yeah.
I have one. I've done little tiny clay pieces, little raku pieces and things outdoors with it. And I've also done a little bit of glass with it, but they're quite small. So if you're going to do a clay piece, it's going to have to be pretty tiny.
But is it worth
Interesting.
it? Does it come out like a real
Yeah.
fired piece of clay?
Fires the temperature.
Yep.
How much control do you have of the temperature?
I've only done low fire in it, so I don't know really as far as the temp, I don't think you're controlling it a whole lot. So I've only done low fire, but it seemed to work well.
Okay, awesome.
I don't even know what low fire means or high
Yeah.
fire or anything else. I would have to see. This is why I want to take a class so I could learn all this.
Right, yeah. No, I came to ceramics. I actually took a class when I graduated high school. My mom wanted to do something with me before I went off to school. So me and her took a ceramics class together at the local university. It's like a community studio that they had. They don't have it anymore, which is a shame because it was fantastic. And she really stuck with it. And my mother is very competitive. So of course she had to get better than me. Like that was her goal in it. And then I actually focused in drawing and painting in college. I've taught everywhere from kindergarten up to high school. I was just kindergarten for a couple years. So now that I'm up at the high school, I've kind of find my niche with ceramics. So now my full schedule is ceramics. I teach AP art history, and then the rest of my schedule is ceramics right now. And that went from when I started at this particular school, we had 2 ceramics classes running. And now it's my full schedule. So it's grown a lot in this is my 3rd year at that school.
Nice.
So it's something that I really love. And I feel like that's been showing. The kids have been showing up. They're really interested. It's been a lot of fun.
Oh, that's great.
And any of the things I learned about firing, things like that, I've learned from calling Amico and asking a million questions.
Really?
Or when I bought my kiln for home, that person who I bought it from was from a local studio, and he has been amazing at letting me ask questions. And anytime he's like, "Oh, this person needs someone to do," like he's just been a really great connection for me. So whenever I get a text from him, I know it's gonna be something good. And I had issues with my wheel at home. And he was like, "Listen, I can come by and fix it, but you can't afford me. Try these things." I was like, that's what I really need. I need someone who can like point me in the right direction. And he's been an amazing resource.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
It's all about the contacts.
Yes. Very much so.
Totally about the contacts. Okay. I guess we can get started. So you've been hearing us chat with, well, it's Karissa LaLima and I. Karissa, you volunteered to do this after an email, right? An email through NYSADA, I think it
Mhm.
was. And that was awesome because usually, and everybody who's a regular with me here knows that I stalk my fellow art teachers on Facebook and all the bazillion art teacher pages there. So it was great that you actually contacted me. and I got all excited because Chia Pets is a thing, you know, from all of our lives and all of our childhood, and I'm sure the kids love all of this stuff. And I actually just had I won a grant with a local college, and I had them come in with a resident artist to do a ceramics unit with me in school, and we did it with air dry clay. But the kids have been asking, this is my 21st year teaching, and the kids always ask me, why can't we do clay? Why can't we do clay? And it's like, because it's not my jam. I don't know anything about it. I don't know how it works. I don't know the variations and the problems and this and that. So the grant was a perfect thing. And the kids kind of really, they either loved it or they hated it. There's kind of no in between. They either love getting their hands dirty and playing with it and squishing and experimenting, or they hate getting their hands dirty and they don't want to deal with it. But it was a great experience. It really, really was. And that kind of put me in a mindset of, maybe when I retire, I'm going to go take some pottery classes and
Yeah.
learn how to do all this myself. But I wouldn't want to do it on a regular in a classroom, because that's a lot, man. And props to you, because between the setup, the cleanup, the storage, and, you know, keeping track of everybody's boo-boos and cracks and tears when things blow up because they weren't, you know, it's a lot of risk, you know, when the kids finally get into it and they make something they love, and because of something that wasn't caught ahead of time, and you go to fire it, and then it's like, oh my god, like, do you have a funeral for those pieces and the kids? And oh my god, I just can't even imagine. So anyway, we're gonna go. Donna says her 6th graders can't get enough when it comes to clay. Yeah. Yep. I mean, if you do it young and they're respectful of the materials and the environment, that's great. That's
Yeah.
really great. All right. So, Karissa, I'm going to hand it over to you. You're going to do your presentation. I think you said you were going to walk us through a process for making one of them, and if there's a Q&A, we can get to that after.
Yeah, that's
We
great.
have until 8:30, and at 8:15, if there's a break in whatever we're doing, I will post the link. Or I don't know if Mary Beth is here. I have to check. She's my partner with regard to the CTLE stuff. We usually post a link to a form. Everybody goes on to the link, fills out the form, and then she will send out the certificate. So I have to check with her on that. Okay, but without further ado, welcome everybody to tonight's session with the New York City Art Teachers Association Art Club. There has to be a shorter way to say that. In partnership with New York State Art Teachers Association. And I'm going to turn it over to Karissa. And thank you for doing this for us tonight.
Of course. Hi, guys. So like I had previously said, I do mostly ceramics now. I've been all over the place with teaching. I've taught strictly kindergarten for a couple of years. I've done elementary. I've done high school. So I've really been run the gamut with grades. And I've kind of settled into the ceramics position, which I love. It's something that I'm doing on my own as well. So it's really nice that what I'm doing in school is kind of reflecting of the artwork that I'm making on my own. I'm currently building a studio in my backyard. So I do run my own kiln. And I've done a lot of work to build a ceramics program at my school. And this particular project is the second project that my kids do in the spring. In the fall, so we always start off with pinch pots. It's the first thing that they learn. And then I teach them a double pinch pot method, which I'm going to show you guys today. In the fall, we make pumpkins. And then my spring students get to do Chia Pets. So it's the same techniques. It's just 2 different outcomes for them. The reason why I start off with pinch pots, because I like to get them in the clay as soon as possible. So literally 2nd day of class, they're in clay and making. So they get a feel for it. And after they get a feel, then I have them actually sketch out and design a Chia Pet. So I'm going to walk you through kind of what I show them. I do start off with the original Chia advertisement. They like to see the commercial. It kind of shows what a throwback it is. A lot of students do know Chia Pets now, but they know like the Bob Ross ones, One of my students was saying they have a Rick and Morty one, all the ones of things that like are more modern. So I show them kind of where it came from in the 90s. And they like to see the commercial. And we really do talk about keeping it simple. You don't want to try and make something that's so complex, especially it's their second project. We're just trying to get them to learn this kind of first technique. Should look through the video. Can you guys hear my video? No.
Not yet.
I'll just show it a little bit. I'm going to talk you through my other videos as well. But it's nice for them to kind of see and understand the process, because a lot of them think that the seeds are inside or in the clay somehow. So it's good for them to kind of see and understand how the chia seeds grow, that they're placed on the outside, that you have to keep it wet in order for them to grow. So this is a good way to kind of start and get them into the planting stage of it. These were the original animals for it. And these are my general steps for them. I have a lot of students of all different abilities and needs, so I always make sure I have my steps posted for all students. I have a couple students who have that required as part of their IEPs or 504s. So it's something that I always have up is simplified steps. But they start with a sketch, make 2 identical pinch pots, attach them together, shape the body, add details like heads or limbs, add texture, and that's where the seeds are to hold on to, and then a hole for the top. So those are the general steps. Here are some student examples. We did try to grow these in class. My classroom is incredibly dry. I think it's actually because it is the ceramic space. So you can see on the little snail, it grows better on the bottom of these. So I do show them this picture as a way to help them kind of understand where placing the seeds is going to work the best. I've had students who did theirs at home and it grew on top just fine. I think my room is just too dry and I'm not able to water them often enough, but these are just some student examples. Some of them are from this past year. I have the little turtle guy with me, so you can see him. He's one of my current students who just did that one. And I did get all of my inspiration offline. This is an original Chia Pet, and then it was those 2 that I saw online that I was like, I could figure this out and make these, and my kids would really love it. This one does have a glaze example. I am not sure how they manage that because you need your clay to be porous in order for the seeds to grow on it. So the fact that that one's glazed means it was fired to a higher temperature, and that doesn't really allow most clays to be porous. I don't know if whatever clay they use was a little bit different, but I only fire mine to a bisque, so if a cone, go for. When they sketch, I always have them sketch 5 different ideas. That was my quick little piggy sketch that I did for my Chia Pet, which you guys are going to see me go through my little pig. I have them write down 5 different ideas, draw your top 3 favorites, and then choose your top sketch to then do from different angles. I have them do that once they're starting to think 3-dimensionally, because a lot of them aren't used to that. Like I said, this is their first experience with clay, period. And if they've done 3D, it's been minimally and typically at the elementary level. The way our middle school works, they only are with the teacher for a quarter, so they don't get to usually do 3-dimensional things. So try to get them to think 3-dimensionally and have them consider where their seeds are going to grow and where the hole is going to be. Because we do talk about how when we're enclosing 2 pinch pots, we're trapping air, and that could also trap water, which could cause explosions, because trapping air is actually not what causes things to explode. It's any water that's being trapped in steam that's created. So I do have them plan that beforehand, because if we put a hole on the bottom of our piece, it's not going to hold water. So make them kind of start thinking about that right away. These are the supplies that I use. I'm a big fan of Amico. They've been very nice, as I call them and have a million questions as I was learning about ceramics. So I do use Amico's Terracotta Stoneware 77. I really, really love this clay. It has a lot of grit to it, so it has lots of texture. And I also really love that, unlike most clays, as it gets closer to that bone dry stage, and usually it'd be hard to attach or fix things, this is really forgiving. I can add a little bit of water and reattach limbs with this very easily. So it's a nice forgiving one for a second project for students. You need some kind of scoring instrument, whether it's a needle tool. I really liked my serrated rib. This is like my go-to tool for everything because it has all the sharps I can score really easily. I like to use, instead of paddles, paddles are expensive, and I just go to the dollar store and I get some wooden spoons. Hole cutters, you do this with a needle tool and just kind of punch through your clay. But I have a whole bunch of these hole punches that are really fantastic, all different sizes. I tend to use this size for Chia Pets. You need a bigger hole than you think. And then of course water and plastic bags to keep things moist as you're working on them. So the first thing you're going to do is make 2 identical pinch pots. I'm going to play my video as I'm talking so you can kind of watch the process. Would it be better if I make this bigger for you guys?
Sure. If you
Yeah.
think it's not too much problem.
Yeah,
there it
no,
goes. It's
works
easy.
fine. So I'm starting off with a chunk of clay about the size, a little bit bigger than a baseball. The more clay that you use, the bigger your piece will be in the end. The less clay, the smaller. And I'm taking this chunk of clay and I'm rolling it in my hands because my goal here is to divide my clay in half. You want to start with 2 even bits of clay, because when you turn those into pinch pots, they'll be about the same size. So once I cut it in half, I kind of judge in my hand, they feel about accurate, and then I'm just going to roll those into a sphere to get started on that pinch. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit so you guys can see. Once I have it into the sphere, I'm going to do my pinch pots. And the kids have already done this, so this is a part that they can kind of do a little bit on their own. You can really see the grit in the clay in the video. It has a really nice texture to it. But the way I teach doing pinch pots is just to shove your thumb in the middle, taking your fingers with all 4 fingers and your thumb is what's doing the pinching motion, starting at what will be the bottom of your bowl and just pinching around in circles. Just turn and pinch. So you're just going to go ahead and do that motion. I like that they're building on a skill that they already have. They already kind of feel like they know something before going into this. And then I do have them tap it on the table just to give it a nice flat spot. That's where our pieces are going to be attached together.
I notice it's a little dry. Is that normal?
So this one, it seems a little bit dry. This is actually fresh out of the bag. It's because of all of that grit it has in it. It kind of takes it apart a little bit. It kind of, as it's stretching over those bigger chunks in the clay, is going to give you those cracks. But you'll see it's able to smooth out really, really, really easily.
Okay.
But once I have my 2, I'm going to make sure that they are going to fit together. And then this is the part where I'm going to be attaching them in the next video. I do show them these things in shorter videos, so I'm not giving them all this information at once. I also like it that if a student misses part of class or needs to go back to something, they can rewatch in those small little bits, which just makes it a little bit easier. When I do have them designing, I also show them my sketch because I want them, sorry, let me go back one. You don't want something that's going to be too rectangular or something that's be very angled. I kind of talked about it. You really do want more of a blob shaped base because we're making a sphere to begin with. You don't want anything that's going to be too intricate you're not going to get a straight right angle from 2 pinch pots. If you want to work in slabs, that's going to give you those right angles. But for these animals, we're going more around. Once they have the 2 pinch pots, they're going to attach them together. My biggest thing here is they're still just learning slip and score. And then we'll show you a technique of making sure that it is trapping air within it. And we're going to make sure that there's going to be no like seam at all. They're taking their piece and scoring the edges. You can use any tools that you have available to you. I have students who use their acrylic nails to do all their scoring, and it works. It does function. So that was my feathering tool. You can use regular needle tool, but I prefer my serrated rib. I use it for everything. And I'm just scoring my edges, and then I'll add some water. Because of the size of this, you don't really need to use like a separate slip. Water works just fine for this clay and for something this size. So I'll show you here, just that serrated rib works so good on chopping up clay. And then I'm really taking my fingers and pushing it together at that seam, because that's going to help make sure that air is trapped. That's the biggest thing, is trapping that air. That's why we don't put the hole in it into it until the very end. I'm really pushing with my fingers to get those attached to each other. And then this is the time where I always warn students, it's going to get uglier before it gets pretty, right? They're always like, oh, this is hideous. It's like, well, yeah, this is just the form of it. Now what they're going to do is they're going to score that seam and then blend it together. The more that work that they do at this stage, the better off they're going to be in the long run. I like to use my ribs to smooth, but a lot of students will just go in with the needle tool and then just their finger and just marry the two pieces together. That really seals in that air. I'm gonna get mine a little bit more together. And then you'll see at one point, my clay kind of sinks in at that seam. So instead of trying to sit there and really scrape at it to get it together, I'm just gonna add a little snake of clay to that spot. Because some students' work will kind of like a burger, where it kind of has like a little waist to it. Putting in that little coil makes such a big difference in making that seam go away. You can't even tell where it is if you blend it really well. And this is all the same technique I do with my pumpkins. But this one, I just use that terracotta clay to get that classic orange color. That's very Chia Pet. I'm just blending mine together. And if this gets squished a little bit, it's all right as long as the air is trapped. So the next 3 steps are a lot quicker. So the first one's going to be shaping the body. So now that the air is trapped, you can really do a lot to manipulate the shape of this. I do a lot of tapping or hitting it on the table. You can do a lot to shape. If you're trying to get more small areas shaped, the wooden spoon is great for this at really like detailed shaping. But this is just to get the overall form of the piece. For my pig, I really wanted him to be a little bit longer and have a flat bottom. But you can really kind of abuse this to get a shape out of it. If you start to see an area open by the seam, you just go through and you just marry those back together. It's very, very forgiving, this process. But you can really go from like a ball to something much more oval and oblong. Because really what we're doing is moving the air at this point. So here I'm just fixing up a little bit of seams. Again, you can add clay if anything has a big dividend to it, but it's very, very forgiving. I've had students be able to make all kinds of different forms out of it, even adding in like little like a waist to it. If they had like something was gonna have like a head and a body to it, they'll kind of just add that in just by manipulating all that air inside. It really does take on different forms. Just showing here, I'm tapping on the bottom to give him a flat spot to sit, because this one is my little piggy is sitting. So once you have that form or shape done, I go through, and this is the point where I do any smoothing. So if you're having that grit and it's giving you a lot of texture, you can kind of go in and burnish all of that out, make it a lot smoother. If you really want it perfectly crystal clean, wait until you get closer to that leather hard stage. So let it dry out a little bit more, and then you can really push that grit back into the clay. But once you have the general form that you like, this is when we're going to be adding things to it. For my pig, we are going to be adding his 4 legs. He also has a little snout and ears and a little tail. He is based off of my pig, who loves to sit in the mud just like this, what he is based off of. And then you can see for this is a student example, they went in and made a turtle. So they added the tail, they added this ridge to make it look like a shell on top, and the head and the feet, which I love that he has more feet. He doesn't have like little stubs that come out the side. I think he's just so cute. So what I'm showing them for this video is for my pig, I want the legs to be the same on either side. So instead of making one leg and then attaching it, I have them make both at the same time so they can try to make them as similar as possible. And then teaching them how to place things and figure out where they're going to go before we start slipping and scoring. Because it's a lot harder to slip and score something on, take it off and move it, than it is just to kind of stick it there in the meantime and decide what you like. So I'm just going in with my serrated tool to score.
We have a question, Karissa, sorry.
Sure.
Aubrey wants to know, how identical do the pinch pots need to be in size, shape, and thickness? And are the students mostly trying to match the opening sizes?
So you're saying for, the opening sizes is most important. I always tell them, they know the rule. It's instead of the rule of thumb, we call it the rule of the pinky, that our clay should be about pinky thickness. That's always our goal for our clay. So that's something that they learn when we just do the pinch pot. So it's the same thing for this. As long as you have that teeny tiny little bit where they're getting attached together, they'll never sit right. So as long as you have that nice pinky thickness all the way through the pinch pot from lid to bottom, they're going to fit together nicely. So really the goal is making sure that they're going to fit together this way.
And Jenna also wants to know if white clay would work also.
Absolutely, yes. I've done this with white clay too. Because you don't add glaze to it, I felt like they just look very pale, depending on the creatures that they're making. So that's why I decided to switch to the terracotta, because it gives you that color without having to worry about glaze.
Thank you.
No problem. So now I'm making his little front legs. These ones I didn't attach right away because I could not decide how far apart I wanted them to give him his little squat stance that he does. And then at this point, I start thinking about the head. Now, if you notice on my video, he looks a lot more like a cooked turkey at this point than a pig, because he's a very round body with those two little chicken legs. So this at this point is when I was considering how I wanted to kind of make my face come out a little bit more. You can see my end product. He has a little bit more of a snout here. So I kind of placed clay there to see how tall I would want it to be. And I spent a lot of time just playing with what shapes I kind of want to create from here. Like, where would the ears go? Where would the snout be? So I spent a lot of time just messing with the clay that way. So I'm going to skip ahead a little bit so you don't have to watch all of that process. So what I did was I started to pull a little bit more to get more of a snout shape and more of a differentiation between the head and the body for mine. I just felt like he was too circular. I actually did pull up a picture of my pig at one point to kind of see like how big his head is in ratio to his body. Of course, this isn't accurate, but I wanted to give the same vibe as him. So I really spent some time playing with it. I got it to stick out a little bit more, but I decided I still wanted more thickness. So I did slip and score a piece to make that snout come up a little bit more. So that's what I'm doing here, just adding that little bit of chunk. So it's going to make that part of my piece a little bit thicker. As long as it's not thicker than an inch, you're safe. That was my rule I always tell the students. So for design wise, as long as you're not an inch thick in all directions, you're good.
If what was an inch thick?
Your clay, and any place, if you have more than an inch, not that you can still fire something. If like you had a 1-inch ball, you could absolutely fire that in the kiln if it was solid, but you would have to wait a really long time to know that it's definitely dry. Because if it has just that little bit of moisture in it, that steam will be created in the kiln and it will explode. So I'm adding his little nose. And I'm going to give him some little ears. At this point, my students, of course, know how to do those pinch pots, but the first pinch pot project, I have them do a texture pinch pot where they have to do additive and subtractive textures. So they're learning all of the tools in that project. I always tell them your goal is to try to use every single tool that we have. So they have some experience and kind of have a feel for what tools they like for slipping and scoring, what tools make what kind of different shapes. And now they're able to apply it with purpose here, which I really like. So I got his little ears on, his nose, and now I'm figuring out those last little limbs. I'm gonna attach those guys up.
I love that nose.
Yeah.
So cute.
I've sculpted many pig noses. I have many pig things around. Like I said, this clay has been super, super forgiving. One of those little spiders that I showed you guys in the beginning, she did snap off 3 of his legs, and we were able to reattach them at bone dry, which for most clays you cannot do. So last thing I'm doing is adding just his itty bitty little tail. And now I'm going to go through and just clean him up a little bit. The serrated blades do leave a lot of excess. So in order to clean up all of those score marks, I just go in with a paintbrush with some water on it, and it cleans them up super easily. You can see it helps get rid of that texture too. This is also a good trick for when students are doing coil pots and they're slipping and scoring rings together. You tend to get that more scores than you need. So the paintbrush really makes a difference. So now typically for my students, I would tell them to make their texture at this point. And by texture, I just mean some little lines. You can see I have them here at the bottom of my pig now. I'll show you the process of doing that. But for the sake of the video, I did go in with the hole so that you guys could just see that. The hole punch, super easy, hole on top, nice and clean. It's a great tool. You can do the same thing with a needle tool. And when I have students do it with a needle tool before I had my fancy tools, I had them just draw with a needle tool the shape that they were going to cut, and then just keep going a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper each time until they got all the way through. So you can do it with your basic tools, but I like my little.
And this won't collapse once you open it up.
No, once you open it up, you're good. Especially if you let it sit. Figure students are doing this over the course of 3 or 4 days. It starts to stiffen up a little bit, even if they wrap it really well. And that definitely helps it hold its shape. But I did all of that in one sitting, and he held his shape fine.
Okay.
So this next video is just going to be how I. Oh, that's the wrong video. Never mind. So what I did after that was just add those little lines. Those lines inside make all the difference in holding the seeds. So add a little bit of texture. So this student who did the turtle did texture on the base here. He also did a couple, I don't know how it will show up on camera, some texture on the bottom and on his feet so that he could put seeds anywhere he wanted. Having that texture just helps the seeds stick together better. That's the texture for seeds. I'll show you this one. So I did let it sit for over the weekend with a plastic bag just gently draped over it so it would start to stiffen up. So I'm adding in those textures with my needle tool. And this is when I start to sculpt any more details. When the clay is very soft, you're not going to get really refined details from it. So at this point, I did go in and give him little hooves instead of little stubs for feet. Those tiny little pig hooves. As well as that texture. I decided for him, I did want his seeds to be just on the bottom. Because I kind of wanted it to reenact the way he like sits in the grasses in my backyard or sits in his little mud pile. So he'd have everything growing up around him. Yeah, it's just me sculpting the little feet. I do keep this project very open-ended too. I don't say any kind of animals they need to do. Students like, hey, I want it to be Hello Kitty. They can go for it. I really don't restrict them with these as long as they're learning that double pinch pot method. That's my goal, is them to start to learn how to build three-dimensional sculptures from clay. So for you guys, there's a lot of info on my end that the students don't know. So I wanted to make sure I included a slide for you guys. I'll also give you guys the link to this too. So if you guys want to use this, access it, you have full access. So when you're firing, I know not everybody knows about firing schedules and how they work with clay, so I'll give you the basics for it. Most clay, I say asterisk most clay, basically any clay that you encounter is going to bisque fire, so your first fire, at a cone 0405. So even if you are someone who uses high fire glazes, high fire clay, your bisque is the 0405. So it's over 1,000 degrees in that range. The bisque fire still allows work to be porous. So if you've ever had a piece of bisqueware that you were glazing, it kind of absorbs the water out of your glaze. That's because it's still porous at that point. If I were to go take this, or if I take my handy mug here with the glaze, once it gets a glaze firing, and I use all high fire with my students, so a cone 5 to cone 6 glaze, it's no longer porous at this point. So it would stop absorbing any kind of water, which is why it makes it like dinnerware safe. So this clay, you could glaze it and fire it to a cone 5 for other projects. And I have other students who work with terracotta that way. But for this project, we're just doing one fire, the cone 05. And that also helps the seeds stick on there. So for the seeds, chia seeds are just the seeds that you get from the grocery store. I usually just go to my local grocery store, get a bag of them. I take the seeds, put them in a little cup with some water, let them sit for 5-10 minutes, stir them up a little bit until they get gelatinous. Students will take their Chia Pets, bring them to the sink and soak them through. I don't know what exactly that does, but that was the direction on the Chia box, so we follow it. So they soak it up, and then we use a paintbrush to paint on the chia seeds because they will stick to you. And I will tell you, you will feel like you have bugs on you all day because they just kind of stick and get everywhere and don't go away. So they paint them on wherever they want, and then they can fill their Chia Pet with water. I tell them to keep it full. Anytime they walk past it, just top it off with some water or give it a spray. And I always remind them to make sure they put something in between your Chia Pet and wherever you're putting it. So don't put it on your dresser and have a wet thing sitting there. Make sure there's a piece of plastic. I use plant trays, like drainage trays in my classroom, and those work really good.
We had a question from Aubrey.
Sure.
She wants to know, do you need to wrap it if you can attach bone dry?
I would. It works good to in an emergency, but I wouldn't want to have to do that each time because I did have to, as it got bone dry, which is a bit of a dry piece. As it got bone dry, I really had to kind of, and when I was scoring it, really score it really good to kind of make a new mud. So it did shrink her spider legs a little bit. I don't know if you can see it in her picture. Yeah, you can't really tell in her spider. Oh, this one you can tell a little bit. This one looks a little bit shorter. So that one we did have to kind of shorten up a little bit. So I would still work with it wet, but it's a good emergency fix, especially if you have those students who get very upset when things aren't working out. And like I said, this is their second clay project, so they're still learning how to work with clay in general. Have any other questions?
How long do the seeds take to grow?
Usually a couple days, they start to see growth in them.
Do they all take them home?
I do let them take them home. The way my district does displaying student work, we do a big art show in early May. So we just had our art show May 4th. And it's a big district art show. We have kindergarten to our seniors all showing at the same time, same place. So what I do, especially with ceramics, the kids are dying to take them home. And I don't really have enough place to store old projects and current projects. It could be a lot. So I always let them take everything home as they're finished. And then as art show time comes around, I have them all choose their best piece to bring back. And I get like 95% of my students bring stuff back for it.
Oh, we have two questions. One,
Yep.
how long until the greens die, and do you just reseed?
Yep, you can just reseed. My Chia Pet lasted, I want to say it lasted like 2 weeks. It basically lasted until you forget to water it. I would say about 2 weeks is the longest I've seen. Because once you forget to water it, they'll just start shriveling back up. And then you just wash it off and you can reseed as many times as you want.
So it's not like a regular plant that just continues to grow?
Yeah, no, they will eventually die off.
Oh,
Yeah.
I did not realize that. Okay. The other question actually was exactly the same.
Oh, right. And I do always tell students, I give them bonus points. Like that's like a joke in my classroom is like, oh yeah, bonus points for this. That if they bring it back with the plants all on there for the art show, it's bonus points. So they all try to like grow them at home and like try to time it so they'll have a nice green Chia Pet for the art show.
Oh, that's cute.
And it's nice because I don't have to try to worry about that.
That's great.
Do you have any questions about either these or ceramics in general? I have no problem answering those questions too.
No questions.
All right. Yeah, so I'll give you guys the link to this. Actually, let me see if I can share that with you right now. And I'll share the link with you guys now, and I'll put it when the video is posted. I'll put it there as
Awesome. Thank you so much.
well. No problem.
I make these with my kids too, and one of the things that I found works really well is when you first plant your chia seeds, when you first put them on, if you put them in like a window ledge that's got a lot of sun, if you actually put them like with like an upside down clear Tupperware or in like a plastic bag with some puffed air in it, it almost acts like a mini greenhouse and it keeps the
Yeah.
moisture in them better. So like when you were saying your seeds were drying out, that'll keep the moisture in them. And then my kids go in and they water them and they spray them in there and it kind of acts like a mini greenhouse and keeps that moisture in, especially when I'm doing a lot of ceramics and firing a lot. And like you said,
Yeah.
your room will dry out. But if you keep them in that little upside down plastic for a little, as long as they have that sun and all that moisture, it kind of, yeah,
That's
acts like
awesome. Yeah, that's a great idea. I actually have like little mini like seed starters. I wonder if those would work well. Very cool.
Aubrey is very excited to see this, and she says she's wanted to do chia type project for years.
Good. Yeah, they're a lot of fun. The kids really enjoy doing them. It's a project. Either kids are upset that they didn't get to do the pumpkin because the pumpkin's always a big hit. I always make sure to post that on the school social media when we do our pumpkins every year because I always have someone commenting that they want to buy them. So the kids will come in and be disappointed that we're not doing pumpkins in the spring. But then they get very excited for Chia Pets. So it's a good makeup project.
I'm curious, have you done ceramic bobblehead type stuff?
I have not done that yet.
You have not. Okay.
No.
I've been curious how the mechanics of that work because I've seen it done with the spring inside.
Mm-hmm.
But then I've also seen it just as a like a cone inside that just balances and rocks the head on top.
Yeah.
Oh, Kelly said you've done them. Oh, you've done them with a spring or a point. Aubrey's done bobbleheads. Okay, so how do those work in terms of the process? Is it like the same building like pinch pot starting, or you just start with the ball and add on and use, which do you find works best, the spring or the cone or point inside? Either one of you want to answer?
So I think it depends on your spring that you get. If you do the point, yep, I was just gonna say same thing as Aubrey saying, put the little divot in the top piece. And that kind of helps them kind of balance on that, and they kind of get that little wobble a little better. The springs, it depends on your spring that you get. A lot of times I actually just do wire, and we actually use my drill and we just wrap it around and we make our own little springs.
Right.
Those work pretty well, but yeah, just the point and divot seem to work just as
Cool.
good, so.
All this clay stuff is it's all new to me. Totally like a foreign, like I get the concepts of everything, but the practical, I haven't done it, so I have no way to compare to anything. So what else have you done with your kids, Karissa?
So the way I lay out my classes is we do our pinch pots, double pinch pots, and then in sculpture 1, it's sculpture and ceramics. So we have a little bit of a mix. But then we go into coils and slabs. So my goal is that by sculpture 1, which is 1/4, they know those basic hand building methods. So that in sculpture 2, I give them much more broad lessons. So it would be like a mug design where they have to do a pulled handle, but they get to decide what methods they're going to use. So depending on their designs, they have to start picking and choosing those methods they learned in sculpture 1. So we do a mug, a jar with a lid, a fitted lid, and then a teapot. Because for each of those, they're learning how to do the pulled handle, they're learning how to do the lid. So by the time we got to the teapot, the only new thing they're learning really is the spout. And it's cool because those students are already thinking ahead to these 3 pieces could be cohesive in some way. So I've had a lot of really cool sets that come out of that. So they're really very, very thoughtful at that point in the game. Like I said, it's only a half year. So by the end of the year, they have basically a full tea set. And then my advanced sculpture and ceramics is a capstone class. For my district, our capstones are research-based projects. So every quarter they have a very general theme I give them. This past quarter, we went to the Metropolitan Museum of Art and they had to create a sculpture inspired by something they saw. That was my only lesson to them. So I got a range of projects, not only clay, but clay was included too. So I had students who like sculpted lion heads. I had students who were throwing vessels on the wheel, and really, really a big mix of stuff. So I do very, very open-ended. This is probably the most like set project of like, we're all making a very similar outcome. From this point on, it's much more broad.
I just had a question and it went right out of my head. Sorry.
It's all right.
Oh, you say pulled handle.
Mm-hmm.
For those of us who have no idea what that, because when you say that, I'm thinking you're pulling it out of the thing that already exists, or are you scratching and attaching the handle?
So, yeah. Pulled handle is you really just take a chunk of clay like this, and then it's one of those things that when I teach it, I have to really gauge. I already see people giggling. I really have to gauge my students and who
I'm
can
sorry,
handle
can you stop
what.
sharing so we could see you and your hands?
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah. Thanks.
There we
Okay,
go.
cool.
So when we're doing a pulled handle, you're
Mhm.
taking a chunk of clay like this, and your hand has to be extremely wet, and you are pulling down to try to create your handle shape. So with a group of high schoolers, you can imagine some of them really can't handle.
That's got to go over really well in the high
Yes.
school class. Yeah.
So some of my kids can totally handle it. I had one class it was a really, really great class. And I was like, I'm just not even going to mention it. I'm not going to say anything beforehand. I'm just going to go ahead and teach it. And I had one girl in the front row who was like looking around, like waiting for somebody to react with her. And at the end of my lesson, I just was like, I can't, like, your face the entire time. She's like, I can't believe nobody said anything. I can't believe nobody giggled with me. That was a very funny one. But sometimes I have to give a little bit of a lecture of like, I understand. We have to get over it. So it's a good skill for them to know. It's one of those days where I'm like, oh, the day to teach this skill, it's always going to be interesting.
So the whole piece is literally just pulled until it's the thickness that you want it, and then you cut it and
yep, and then you can attach it. And what this does is it really allows you to get a good, nice kind of that you want like a question mark shape at the end of a
Really?
typical handle. Of course, if they have a design they want to go for that has a different type of shape, but to get this like nice question mark, really smooth shape without getting cracks throughout it, a
Uh-huh.
pulled handle is going to give you that.
Huh,
So
okay.
even if they don't want to use a pulled handle on their mug because they have a different design in mind, they have to learn how to do a pulled handle. So there's a couple days where we're all just pulling handles all day until we get one we're really happy with, and then they can use it or move on with their project.
Okay.
So, if you don't mind if I interject, there's a way, my colleague showed me how she does pulled handles with her kids.
Mhm.
So actually, if you want, I can just put my camera on. So
Okay, I'm trying
this
to.
is, here, I'll show you like on here. So she takes her clay and, you know, rolls it first into, you know, a little hot dog or whatever. So
Is
you're
that
starting
Sue?
it much smaller because you don't need the handle to grip it.
Is that
Mhm.
Sue talking? Because I could
Yeah.
I could spotlight you. There we
It
go.
is. Oh, hi.
Okay.
Okay. And she puts it down on a piece of newspaper like this.
Mhm.
Okay. And then shows her kids, like put the hands in the water and kind of pull it this way. Oh, slippery. So I've also shown some of my students how to do it this way because it does avoid a lot of that immaturity and stuff. So it's kind of the same thing, but you're just doing it flat like this.
Right.
You
I
know,
was
it's not
gonna
how I
say,
do
so
it for my own work.
that comes out more like slab-like rather than
No, I
oil.
made this kind of thick. You can make it as thin as you want.
Yeah.
And then you can just like you would with a pulled handle, cut the ends and shape it and, you know, it kind of works. I don't think I'm doing such a great job right now, but it does work.
Yeah, that's great. I've even done it with my sculpture one. I have them roll a coil
You
to
know,
do
you
it.
could cut it and
And I'll even have them like put it in plastic to smooth it out, and that kind of stretches it and gives it that little
Yeah.
bendy quality too.
yeah, so you
Yeah,
could
that
then
was great.
take it and kind of bend it and whatever. So,
Neat.
I mean, it's not bad. Not a bad little handle.
No.
But I like the pulled handles on throne work because I think it just matches it better,
I agree.
you know?
You
So,
see less of like the hand
since
in it.
I'm here, do you mind just showing us a picture again of the scratch marks you make for the Chia Pet? I want to just see like how much you do.
They don't need to be crazy deep,
Okay.
just enough where there's a texture.
And you do it all over the body.
And I did it wherever I want my seeds to grow. So for him, I
Anywhere
just did
you
it on the
want it to
bottom.
look- anywhere you want it to look furry.
Right. So for my student, he did it all the way across. And his hope was that they would sit more in those seams and kind of give it a little pattern.
Okay.
He hasn't put chia seeds on his yet, so we haven't seen how it grows on here. That was his goal with his line. So he wanted to
Right.
see if it would kind of stay in that pattern.
Right. And the hole, I'm assuming, always has to go somewhere toward the top
Yep, somewhere towards the top.
where you could fill water.
Yeah, and bigger than you
So is
think.
this, I was
I've
just,
done-
while you were talking, I was playing. So I just kind of put them everywhere like that.
Yeah, it was great.
I made this weird little.
That's awesome.
So
Yeah,
it's like
the
size-
hole's
I don't
bigger
know
than
what
you
it
think
is.
is helpful.
It's like
Okay,
the size of a
okay.
dime, the hole.
A little bit smaller than that.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I have one of these guys too.
Yeah, because I had one a size smaller that one of my students had tried, just because their piece was a little bit more delicate, and it took forever to like you would dunk it in water and it'd be like one bubble at a time. These fill up really nicely, so you can just dunk them. I even dunk them with the seeds on. I'll just dunk the whole thing in a bucket of water and come back on the counter.
So anywhere on top is fine.
Yep.
But I think I would wait till tomorrow to put the hole. Because
Yeah,
it's-
it really depends
it's
on
a
how
little too
stiff your
soft.
site is.
Yeah. All right, well, thank you.
You're welcome.
I did just have another question again. Oh my God, I should just write them down as soon as they come into my head. All right, well, somebody else say something, it'll probably pop right into my head again. Anybody
If
else?
anyone else has them they were working on, I'd love to see some.
Just want to remind everybody, if you are here tonight, please add your name to the CTLE sign-in sheet, which is linked in the chat. If you do not add your name, you won't receive a certificate, but also this is the list that goes to the state that can compare your credit hours. So please add your name.
That's my partner, Mary Beth. She handles all the certificates and the CTLE part of this, so thank you for reminding. Can you post the link again in case people came in after you did? That would be great.
Sure can.
Awesome. Oh, so how long do each of your units generally take? Like, and how often do you see the kids and like for timing purposes
Yeah.
and all that?
So I see the kids every day for a semester for 40 minutes. And I am extremely flexible with my due dates. So I have start dates, but due dates are extremely flexible and movable. My feeling with that is that I have some students who will take an extra 3 weeks than the typical student because they're doing something that's so detailed. And I don't ever want them to feel rushed. I'd rather them spend the time doing that. And I have no problem exempting them from another project, or maybe they'll go much quicker through another project. I feel like it kind of ends up working out in the end. But I'm very, very movable with my due dates. Part of that is because in my school, we have a lot of students with chronic absences. So by eliminating that like one set due date, like no more clay at this point, we're moving on, just doesn't work for my kids. So I'm very, very flexible with them. This project typically takes about 2 weeks, start to finish. And that's with them starting over sometimes. That's another thing. I hate to have a student feel like they have to like finish something that's not turning out well. I'm always like, all right, put it in the reclaim and we'll start fresh again. So average about 2 weeks. I do have students who will spend 3 weeks on it.
Wow. Nice to be able to be that flexible. I don't know. How long are you said you had 4 quarters per semester?
4 quarters a year. So my semester is 2 quarters. So I have them from September until beginning of January, and then January till June.
And those are each split into 2.
So no, that's one full semester. So I have students for that one chunk.
You mean, okay.
So I have sculpture 1 from September to January, and then the students who choose to do sculpture 2, I have them from January till June.
Right, but each semester is split into 2.
Into 2 quarters.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Somebody asked a question. Hang on a second.
Yeah, so for my students' grades,
yeah, how do you grade their work? Right, there it is.
So for me, I have students, after they finish a piece, they have to put it into their digital portfolio and do an artist statement, which reason why I started that was because I didn't want students to hand me 150 objects to grade. It was not going to happen. So instead they do it digitally. They post a picture and they write an artist statement. I have a set of questions that they answer for each and every project. And that I grade everything based off of that. And I'm really looking for completion. Did you see this project to the end? And did you answer all the questions in the artist statement? If your first pinch pot doesn't come out beautifully, I'm not big on taking points away from you because you weren't good at something that you just started doing a week ago. So I'm really, really flexible with grades. Most of my grade for my class comes from their student participation. So if a student's not working in my class daily, that's when their grade gets lower. As long as they're working every day, they're going to do just fine in my class.
Now, when you have them photograph their work for the digital portfolio, do you have them take multiple photos from multiple sides or just one shot?
I try to teach them to do multiple views, and most of them do. I have a couple students here and there who might not get them in, but actually all the pictures that I showed you guys in the beginning were all student photographs.
Okay.
I just went to their slides and just stole their pictures.
So do you go over with them in the beginning of the year what that means to photograph your work and what they have to do and how it gets done properly so as best to show off their work rather than Yeah, I'm sure in the beginning during COVID, we all got shots like under the covers in the dark, all fuzzy, and you had no idea what you were looking at, and yeah. So
Yeah, actually, I'm very lucky. I have an outside door to my room, so I always talk to students about taking pictures in the natural light. So a lot of students will go outside with their little trays to take pictures. And it's like an excuse for them to go outside. It's like a novel thing to go out my side door. So a lot of them will do that. But yeah, we do. I'm lucky that I have nice windows in my room, so a lot of them will take just their pictures in class. But we do talk about having nice lighting, multiple views, all of those things.
awesome. Awesome. Oh, this is what I'm sorry, it just came to me. Somebody mentioned that you can glaze the parts that don't get planted or seeded,
Oh,
right? Somebody said that earlier.
That's me. Yeah, you can. So even if
Yeah.
you look at an original Chia Pet, if you look at the originals, their heads are glazed.
yeah.
So, anything that really you're not going to plant can be glazed. I usually only allow my kids to glaze the appendages, so they can glaze like the head, they can glaze like the tail, just to add that little color. But I tend to have them keep the body form itself without glaze. So, but yeah, anything technically that's not going to be planted can be glazed because you only need the other stuff unglazed for the fact that the water needs to be able to soak in.
So then do you glaze fire to like a low temperature, or are you going to like an like cone 5-6?
No, I'm glazing to usually no higher than a 5 for these.
Okay.
Because otherwise, yeah, you don't want to vitrify everything and then you're not going to get
Right.
any water
That's
soaking
what I
in.
figured once it's vitrified. So that's why
Yeah.
I don't do the firing.
Yep.
Interesting. Cool.
So
Like
yeah,
you guys are talking on a whole nother language right now.
if you vitrify your clay, you're basically making it so that no water will absorb into it, and you need the water to absorb into it.
Right. Right. That makes sense. Okay. Wow. Does anyone have anything they want to share or ask? If you've made something, would you like to show it off? Or if you have any other questions we want to post? This is reminding me of
Has
COVID.
anyone used mason stains?
What's
I got to use Mason stains a little bit when I was at the NYSADA conference this year. That was my first like introduction to them. I definitely want to use them again.
What's a mason stain?
So it's a powder that you can mix with clay to change the colors.
Oh,
So you can have like a colored clay body.
got it. Interesting. I'm learning a lot.
That's one thing with clay is there's so many things to know about it. That the more you know, the more you realize there's more to learn.
Yeah, the more questions you have, and yeah,
Yeah.
I totally get that.
Yeah, I've used underglaze also to tint clay also. That works too.
Anybody want to show off your work? No. Okay. Well, that went very quickly. There was a lot of information in a short period of time. Thank you so much, Karissa.
No problem.
Did you did share your link with us? I
Yes.
think I opened it. Oh, Aubrey found a bobblehead example. So where is Aubrey? I have to find your picture. Where is Aubrey? There's Aubrey. Oh, you're gonna post it? Hang on one second.
Here, I'll show you this while you're looking. This is a student's work, and you can see how big
Oh, that's great. That's
one.
so cool.
So really full, but yeah, you can see the heads glazed on that one too.
Is that Kelly?
Jen, I posted the link again for you. It's a Google Docs link.
Oh, cool. Okay. And if you need the CTLE credits, the link is in the chat also. Make sure that you fill out everything because that's what keeps us honest with the state. And then as soon as Mary Beth reviews it, oh, those are really cute, Aubrey, the pictures there.
A little mushroom, very cute.
Yeah, and then as soon as Mary Beth reviews it, she will email you out the certificate. And you can use that if you are in New York City, you get your CTLE credits. If you're out of New York, New York State, you can still present, I guess, the certificate. I don't know how it works, but it's evidence that you did attend a workshop, so. And if no one has any more questions, I will say thank you again, Karissa. You were awesome. Very, very
Thanks.
informative. And keep looking for our posts and our emails. Our next session is in 2 weeks. We are going to be doing wrapped wire sculptures. And we have a session in June with Peter Reynolds, who is going to be talking with us. I'm very excited about that one. And then in July, I usually don't do sessions in July, but in July I was able to grab Allie Manning, who is the founder of Vintage Page Designs and bookmaking online. So she's going to be doing a session with us also, and I'm so super fangirling about that. I'm very excited about that. So if you have questions, if you would like to do a session for us, please do not hesitate to contact me. Let me know what you want to do, what ideas you have. If you have any suggestions or concerns or whatever questions, feel free to contact me. I'm so happy that this has been a continuing community for us. That was just a spur of the moment idea that has been going on now for 4 years, and I'm really, really happy with it. And all of our wonderful guest presenters. Thank you so much, Karissa.
Of course, and I fixed the link for you guys. It was saying to ask for access because it's in my school email. It automatically does that, so I fixed it. So it should work for you guys.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Well, thank you again, and
problem.
stay safe. And it's days now. It's days to the end of the school year, so we're almost there. Keep your sanity, and have a great rest of the week and weekend, everyone. Thanks so much.
Bye, guys.
Bye, Karissa. Thank you.